Liz sits in a sad room with a glass window. There is a telephone to her left. She is visiting Ted, her ex-boyfriend, in a prison. A guard brings Ted to the visiting area. His handcuffs are removed and he sits down to have a conversation with Liz. She asks Ted if he remembers the first time they met at night. A few years ago, Liz and her friend Joanna are sitting at a bar. Liz scolds Jo for choosing a college bar and tells her that, as a single mom, she feels like she doesn't belong there. Jo looks at Ted, who is sitting not too far from her, and sees that he is looking at her and smiling. They chat and dance close to the music machine, then Ted takes her home in his car. When they get to the door, Liz's babysitter quickly leaves, saying she has to go home. After Liz leaves, she tells Ted that she knows he might not want to go inside because of the baby. He says he doesn't mind. They make sure Molly, the kid, is okay, and then go to sleep. The next day, Liz wakes up in her bed and realizes that Molly is not in her baby's bed. She gets really worried and quickly goes into the kitchen to see Ted preparing breakfast for them, while Molly is sitting properly in her high chair. The group spends a few more years together, having fun on birthdays and holidays while Molly gets older. There is a news report about some women who have been found dead or are missing. The person responsible acts like he is hurt and asks women to help him carry things to his car. Ted is driving on the street late at night when a police officer stops him. He leaves the car and attempts to impress the officer by saying he is a law student in Utah and just wants to go back home to see his girlfriend. The cop is not convinced and takes Ted into custody for going through many stop signs. While he is being held by the police, a woman who was recently attacked identifies him in a group of people. The police also check his car and discover some weird gadgets. He has been scheduled to appear in court on a specific date. He goes back home and finds Liz very mad at him. His photos are everywhere in the newspapers and she's mad because he hasn't informed her about the situation. That evening, they have dinner with Molly and Ted tries to make excuses for everything. He tells her that the girl who accused him got a photo of him before the lineup, and that the police got his name. He believes that someone is trying to trick him. Ted is showing Liz a car parked on the street outside the diner. He explains to her that the car has been following him since he returned to town. He says to Liz that he will be staying up late to study for his case at the library. While he is not here, Liz carefully looks through his bag. Once, a girl who was studying near Ted at the library realized that she had seen him in the newspaper pictures. She quickly told the security guards about it. He gets thrown out of the library and notices the same strange car parked outside. When he tries to talk to the driver, the car drives away quickly, so he has to go home and continue studying there. Liz goes with him to court and hears the woman speak out against him. Ted's lawyer questions her and shows that most of what she said is not useful, because he proves that the police told her too much and seemed to guide her. Ted and Liz go to a place where homeless animals live to choose a dog. When they are there, they meet someone Ted used to work with named Carol. Carol flirts with Ted in front of Liz, which makes Liz feel jealous. She tells Ted that she believes he is innocent of the crimes he is accused of and that she will stand by him no matter what. After saying bye to Carol, Liz and Ted spend time with some of the dogs, but the dogs don't seem to like Ted. They bark and growl at him. They go home and have a drink, imagining what their life will be like together, and having a special moment. At the next court appearance, Liz goes with him and Ted is arrested. He gets to the prison and takes everything out of his pockets. Then he is made to put on prison clothes. Ted phones Liz not long after and tells her that everything will be fine. It's just a big mistake. Liz says she wants to come see him. Detectives call Liz while she is working and tell her that Ted is also being suspected for crimes he did in Colorado. This makes her very unhappy and she tells the detective to stop calling her at work and then ends the phone call. Ted is reading his case papers in jail to get ready for his future court appearances. A detective comes up to him and asks him some questions about why he is in Colorado. Ted gets defensive and starts to argue. He says to the detective that he has never been to Colorado. Afterwards, Ted's lawyer talks to him about what happened. The detective found out that Ted was lying because he had proof that Ted had been to Colorado, like gas receipts. Investigators from nearby states are interested in Ted's case, and they are looking into all of their ongoing cases to see if there are any similarities to his. His lawyer informs him that he is not legally allowed to practice law in Colorado. Therefore, Ted needs to look for a different lawyer. Ted is brought to the local prison in Colorado. Liz and her friend Jo meet up at Liz's house to have drinks and talk about Ted's situation. Early on in the conversation, it becomes obvious that Jo does not believe that Ted is innocent. Liz feels upset and tells Jo to leave. Afterwards, she goes to the shower and cries alone. The following day, Ted calls Liz while she's at work and informs her that he has been given permission to be a co-lawyer for his own court case. He has his own room to work and can use the phone anytime he wants. She says she doesn't want to talk right now and ends the call. He keeps calling many times until he can talk to her. Then he tells her about a book he has been reading. This story is about a man who is accused of a crime he didn't commit. He faces many difficult challenges, but he never loses hope. Liz asks him to call her later that night at her house. During Ted's pretrial, he is sent back to prison without the option to pay bail. The other side strongly indicates that they will choose the death penalty. Ted phones Liz from prison and explains what occurred. He is really surprised and upset to find out that Liz will not be coming to the trial. She ends the phone call abruptly. While Ted is in prison, reporters ask him about his experience of being wrongly locked up with no one believing in his innocence. He exaggerates and acts silly in front of the camera, and tries to make people feel sorry for him, all while saying he didn't do anything wrong. Liz is sad and serious as she watches the interview from her house. Police officers are preparing him for his court case. Soon after he arrives, he asks if he can make a phone call to Liz during their break. The police officer who was supposed to be working got distracted from talking romantically with a woman who came to observe the trial. He takes Ted to the office where the phone is located. Ted makes believe that he is talking to Liz on the phone. When the police officer is sure that Ted is not doing anything strange, he stops bothering him and goes back to talking and trying to charm the woman. Once Ted is by himself, he notices a chance to get away. He goes out of the office window and jumps down into the courtyard, making many people nearby notice him. He goes around a few corners and then changes his clothes in a narrow street. A woman witnessed him jumping out of the window and told the police where he was going. News stories are shown on TV about Ted running away, and Liz is watching them on the television. Joe comes to talk to Ted about his situation again. They wonder if he will try to go back home to Liz or not. Joe tells Liz that she has been drinking a lot, and that she is causing herself pain by not moving on from Ted yet. She says to Liz that she refuses to accept the truth and that she should continue with her life. Ted is caught again in the mountains and taken back to jail. Liz comes to see him and tries to make him understand how serious the situation is. Now, besides the other accusations against him, he will also have to deal with additional punishments for running away. Ted gives Liz the book he was telling her about in the courthouse and asks if she still believes in him. She says to him that she cannot continue doing this. Ted becomes very worried and tells her that he can escape once more, and they can go away together and begin a new life. Liz gives Ted a picture of a shark that Molly drew for him, and then she goes away. Ted puts Molly's drawing above his bed in his cell, while Liz takes out Ted's picture from a frame at her work desk. She then places the picture in the book Ted gave her and keeps it in her desk drawer. In the lunch area, Jerry, one of her fellow workers, timidly chats with her and talks about lunch and the holidays. Ted writes a letter to Liz saying that he can be okay without her, and then he begins to make another plan to run away. He gets a job at the prison, using big machines, and takes one of them back to his room. When the other prisoners are taking a shower, it is noisy enough in his cell that he can use a saw on the ceiling without anyone noticing. He smashes through the opening he made and climbs up into the upper part of the room. Liz watches the news about Ted getting away, and then a detective comes to her door. He tells her that she must inform him if Ted tries to reach out to her, or else she will face serious consequences. He gives her an envelope with Ted's information and goes away. After being released, Ted goes to bars near his college and talks playfully with many girls. The news on TV the next day says that the girls and some other people in nearby dorms were killed. Ted is driving by himself at night, and a police officer stops him. He gets scared, but then he relaxes. He steps out of the car to argue with the officer, and when the officer asks for his license and registration, he pretends to search for his wallet and attacks the officer. He starts running away. While Joe, Liz, and Molly are playing cards, Liz receives a phone call from Ted. He tells her that he got caught again and that he is in Florida. Liz ends the call with him and goes back to playing the game. After Ted moves into his new room, the sheriff comes to see him. He clearly says that he really wants to get Ted found guilty, and tells him that he won't be able to deceive him. The sheriff asks some of his friends to take pictures of Ted's teeth. The sheriff wants to publicly announce the charges against Ted, but Ted sees it as a chance to get sympathy from people. He is talking to the media about how badly he is being treated in jail and mentions that he has not been given the chance to share his perspective. He says that the sheriff is trying to use his case to make sure he gets elected again. He rips apart the legal document in front of the people recording and is guided away. He keeps trying to call Liz many times, but she refuses to answer his calls. Instead, he chooses to phone Carol, the lady he had encountered when he was at the place for animals with Liz. Carol visits him while he is in jail, and Ted explains to her how he is being treated unfairly. She feels sorry for him and says she would be very happy to move to Florida to back him up and try to assist him in winning his case. Liz is finally reading the book that Ted gave her as a Christmas present. Jerry came by unexpectedly and brought some soup. He thought she was sick because she hadn't been at work a lot. She asks him to come inside. While Ted is meeting with Carol, someone new comes in and says they are Ted's lawyer. Ted tells Carol that he can tell her everything about the case. His lawyer says that his case will be the first trial to be shown on television ever, and that the court wants to agree on a deal. If he confesses to the crimes, they won't give him the death penalty, but instead, he will be sentenced to life in prison. He strongly says no and makes the lawyers leave. Carol is very upset and wants to assist him in sharing his story. She tells Ted that she went to the animal shelter in Utah just to see him. At Ted's trial, most of the seats are occupied by giggling young girls who are excited to see Ted. Liz is at her house watching the trial. Carol is talking to reporters and she tells them some things that Ted taught her to say in order to make people feel sorry for her. Ted tries to phone Liz once more at night, but she is asleep on the sofa with Jerry. Jerry wakes up from the couch and takes out the phone plug. Jerry can tell that Liz is still in love with Ted by the way she looks at him during the trials. Carol arranges a meeting for Ted where his mom and lawyers come to talk to him in his prison cell. They want him to agree to the deal that the court is offering. They do not want him to pass away. He agrees to consider it, but gets angry at Carol for planning everything. He wants her to never do something like it again. Later on in court, Ted is about to say that he will agree to the plea deal. However, he chooses to scold his lawyers in front of everyone instead. He accuses them of being not good at their jobs and not being able to do what they should be doing. He fires his lawyers and takes charge of his own case. He is charming and persuasive in court and has a strong ability to win over the public. The following day, Ted dials Liz's number, but Jerry answers the call instead. Jerry tells Ted that he is not allowed to contact Liz anymore. Ted asks Jerry to pass on a message to Liz for him. The message is that he loves her. This upsets Jerry a lot, and he ends the phone call abruptly. Liz thinks back to all the time she spent with Ted and remembers the moments when she felt the strongest love for him. Ted gives money to a guard so that he can talk to Carol in a hallway at the prison, near a vending machine. After they are done, Carol realizes that there is something wrong with him, and she accuses him of still having feelings for Liz. Ted tells her that he is not lying or hiding anything and suggests that they should make their relationship official by getting married. He tells her exciting stories about their future. Ted asks Carol to come to court and talk about what she knows. While she is there, he asks her to marry him. She agrees, and Ted tells the crowd that in Florida, a couple is considered legally married if they exchange vows in a courtroom with a judge present. Liz and Jerry see this show on the news. Liz talks to Jerry about him unplugging the phones at night and not letting her know when Ted called. He tells her that he is only trying to help her move on from him, but she refuses to accept it and needs to stop holding on to Ted. Liz wants to make Jerry leave the house, but he is able to make her less upset. Liz confesses that she feels very guilty about Ted's situation because she was the person who told the police about Ted when the first few girls started disappearing. Jerry tells her that she did the right thing and not to blame herself for what happened to Ted because it was his own fault. After Ted and the state prosecutor finish speaking in court, Ted is asked questions while he is in his cell with Carol. He is asked to come to the court to find out what the jury has decided, but Carol wants to talk to him privately first. Carol tells Ted that she is going to have a baby and it is his. Ted had been found guilty of all the crimes he was accused of, so the punishment he received was the death penalty. He attempts to convince the judge one more time, but his request is denied, and he is sent back to jail. Liz and Jerry are happy as they watch the final decision being made. Liz gets rid of all of her alcoholic drinks. After Liz got a promotion at work, she was interrupted while interviewing a new employee by the delivery of a letter. She tells the girl to go read the letter alone. This is a letter from Ted trying to tell her that everything will be okay. He says he will admit he is guilty to get some extra time. Liz visits Ted one day before he is put to death. She pleads with him to be honest and confess what he has done, so she can find peace. She lets him know that he has been making her suffer for a long time and she has the right to know the truth. Ted first tries to say that he didn't do anything wrong, but eventually he confesses to Liz about what he did. Liz goes out of the room feeling really sad, and a detective comes in to talk to Ted. Liz gets out of jail and goes back to Molly and Jerry who are waiting for her in the car.
Thanks for watching. If you want to see more videos like this, please turn on the notifications and click the like button to support the channel. See you in the next video.